Hello. Well, um, this is a chapter um, about prosperity. Um, I might want to seriously rewrite it. I have not really written it according to a plan. It was just a burst of energy. And after, well, it even got split, so it is not. But I'm just gonna read it, and we will see. Prosperity. So first, I give a quick summary of some facts. Some persons, um, they're not mentioned who they are, and it's just a very, very short summary. 1848. Well, because the discovery of evolution and nature, a philosopher started to think in a different way about the existence of a human. He found that there was a material world. Well, nobody was going to contradict him because that was uh, the usual way of thinking at the time. It became the usual way of thinking. But in that material world, that philosophers saw a battle uh, for material things between classes. 1860, a Dutch functionary in Indonesia wrote that he has suffered a lot because he saw the local population being exploited. 1883, a Dutch philosopher wrote that God is dead and that the people finally got rid of severe rules of morality and that the party can begin. 1908, in America, the first cars are produced on a production chain. I think that might be 1915. I'm not sure. 1915, a citizen in the city of Prague wrote a story about a man who had changed into an insect when he woke up one morning when he normally should go to work. 1917, in Russia, they have started the October Revolution. All property became state property, just like the philosopher had advised. 1932, an Englishman writes a story about a brave new world, but he lets you understand it's not that funny. 1933, a nationalist gets to power in Germany to help the country um, get up his economical feet. In America, a Democrat is elected to do exactly the same thing. 1936, a film is made to mention that, or to bring to attention that the nationalist in Germany is a dictator, the great dictator. In 1953, in China, landowners are killed by the local population in on order of the big leader. And so then I start my story. Um, the Communist Manifest of 1848 has been a philosophical atom bomb in clarity. Maybe it didn't get through everywhere immediately, but the afterglow has been so important that in 1870 in Paris, they could already shortly experience the first communist community. The thought of Karl Marx is that our material world, that our world is a material world, not a spiritual one, and that it obeys natural laws of Newton, of course. He believes there is no more soul and that God is not really existent. In that degree, some liberals would even agree with him, but his analysis is also one of evolution. That is logical because at that time, everything, uh, nothing was left eternal, and everything became, was seen in terms of evolution. The world of the good, the eternal, the infinite was definitely broken, and God was dead. Uh, Religion was pure opium, or had been pure opium to the people. The only thing which existed was the material world, the world of flesh and blood. But now comes the original of Marx, the original thinking, the unique thinking. He studies the evolution, and he believes that everything in life is about a class struggle. First, there was the class of nobility, church, and God. This elite has been thrown over by the bourgeois. And now, in 1848, um, according to Marx, the class of labor was it was the turn of the labor class at that time. So that labor class should, remove the bourgeois from the power and found a society in which everybody would be completely equal. There would be equal labor duty for everybody, so also for women. Children will be educated by the state. Inheritance will, of course, be abolished. Very severe progressive income tax. All land rents must be paid to the state. The farms will be confiscated, and the scale of the farms will be enlarged according to a national plan. Every credit and every transport must become a state monopoly, and the state must extend the production of goods. Well, okay. In the very turbulent year 1848, a nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte sees a chance to come to power in France. He has done very much good for France, and he introduced social security for the labor class. His wife, Eugenie, was a good friend of Victoria. The British Empire in this period was in his Victorian period. France had 20 years long free trade with the Britons. Paris was modernized, l'Opéra, Lafayette. Well, and so, well, where the desire for prosperity became greater and greater around 1900, instead, uh, they got a world war in the name of God, because that was what it was all about, a murder, about the successor to a throne of a king. And um, in the, well, in the trenches of the war, the book also said Zarathustra of Friedrich Nietzsche was the most read book after the Bible. Further, there is the not stopping pressure of the communists. It's not just about abolishing property right in the name of equality. It is about a fundamental belief in the fact that central planning of the economy will lead to great prosperity. The big factories with labor were considered um, essential and unavoidable, but they would function so much better if production was centrally planned. Um, Mussolini in Italy was first a communist and then a fascist. Central planning was always the solution. In the United States, mass production had started. Already in 1915, Ford produced cars on uh, a, a conveyor belt or a production chain. Everything had to be streamlined. Also, in agriculture, everything was mechanized. Even the serving in restaurants was made more efficient. Escoffier. There also became a streamlined style, the Art Deco. Everything went well during the roaring 20s, but then suddenly there was a stock market crashed. The streamlined capital had stuck in, well, had fallen apart. And then in the United States, under the guidance of, and I have already changed my text to under the guidance of Roosevelt, and also the economist John Maynard Keynes, the government expenses have given new life to the economy. The streamlining could be continued. DC trees went into the air, and the Chrysler building was built. In Germany, Hitler came to power. The German economy was in a very bad shape. In 1945, they look back on the previous years. Well, in many cases in our society, um, the very best thoughts do not come well to well they are not considered. Well, how did that come? And Friedrich von Hayek, he published in 1945 a book about the road to serfdom. The book analyzes the recent um, society history in Germany, and well, he asked himself the question, how did it come to a dictatorship there? According to him, it were the totalitarian people in Germany. They were to be found about in the organized big capital and the organized labor force, so the unions. The aim was to monopolize everything to make more profit and higher wages. This goes not hand in hand with the free market. Well, I think Friedrich von Hayek, they always consider him for the free market. But I found the book, and in the preface of, because it was a reprint, so you could get the comments of Friedrich von Hayek himself, when it was at much later age, about his own book, and he said like, well, I wished in the road to serfdom I had more stressed on the failing of the state, especially like in Russia. But of course, he didn't know yet how it would work. So he's always known for that free market. And many people hate the free market because if something goes wrong, there is no certainty. If you have a job and there is a crisis and you lose it and you depend on the income of your job, you don't want a crisis. If you have much capital, there is a crisis, you have reserves, well, you want a free market to make money. But if you don't have that capital, you are afraid of a crisis. And you prefer to have no free market in some sense. So, but the the thing von Hayek would wished he had stressed more on was the failing of the state. But of course, well, here I continue a bit about that. But yeah, maybe I'm writing a lot about von Hayek here. Um, Well, all of this, but yeah, it's 15 minutes again.